And we are live. What is going on, everybody? I apologize for AU Packmule, who held us up this whole time. I am just joking. It was almost 100 degrees in my loft. I know my sound's working because I didn't turn it off on my YouTube page. So now we are actually good. All right. I want to welcome everybody. This is kind of like an open forum, far less structured than the other, like the Before the Dust Settles and all that. It's, you know, going to be just more of a chill vibe than you usually get from this channel. And I have on a lot of friends with me and a lot of content creators. Everybody here makes Westworld content, and I'd like to first off introduce, let's start with Living My Rhapsody. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm burning up here, so like probably everybody else, it's over 90 degrees. So, but it's so cool to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite. It's gonna be a blast.
No problem. Technically, I think I sent the invite to everybody that's in like a thread, which is like about, I think, over 200 people are in that thread.
Yeah, I don't feel special. I don't feel special at all.
Yeah.
So I just figured I'm gonna say it because it's nice. So.
Well, I've got an open door policy, but it's not that open. But okay, talking about open doors, let's go to Broke Black Man. How you doing, brother?
A good transition there. Hey, all. Yeah. Broke Black Man 94 here. I'm just here to lay a message. The man in black is not a human. He's not a host, not a hybrid. He is a Funko Pop, people. Go to a store and buy him. $9.99 each. You got to do it. You got to do it.
I told you not to peddle. I said no peddling that bullshit on my channel, BBM. This is why in the mix ended, because of your addiction. All right, let's Mr. AU, who's over there in the almost 1950s-esque little almost like dual chrome over there. I'm loving it. Ooh, liking the glasses. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, and it's going to be fun talking with LMR. I don't think I've been on a chat with her, so that's going to be fun. And knowing what I've known this whole week, I'm really looking forward to conversing with you back and forth on this season.
I am sleep deprived, frustrated, and I tend to believe that your primary motive for being here is living my Rhapsody now. So now I'm a little bit mad at you as well. And saving the best for last, Johnny Be Crazy. And Johnny Be Crazy, people, he is a newer content creator, but I like his style. I like that he actually gets the show, and he has just started making videos, and he's got some Westworld videos out there. I've got links in the info below. You should go and support him and support a starting out content creator, because I've been doing it for like a year now, so I can act like a big boss and give out advice and immediately go against it. But Johnny, how you doing, brother? I'm happy to have you on the channel.
I'm doing great, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I just love Westworld. I want to say hey to everyone in the chat, and I'm glad to have all my friends here. BBM, LMR, AU, how's it going? Just ready to talk about this season and what it all means.
Yeah, what does it all mean? I want to get kind of a general vibe from the chat. As I said, this will be more laid back. I do have a 42-minute video that I'll be releasing after this live stream that I've been working on for the last like 78 hours. And it is the best mix of me trying to be rational about this season finale. I will start off by just giving my overall feelings for the season, and then I'm going to work it around. We'll start with Living My Rhapsody. Well, then we'll go to you, Johnny, and then work it. We'll do the whole roundabout. So I really enjoyed this season. I think that there's a lot that they missed as far as showing more of the hosts finally making their own decisions. I feel they did do a lot of they made a lot of choices that really restricted the places they could go rather than, open up these new areas to kind of explore. But I think overall that we had, first off, two of maybe the best episodes ever of Westworld with Riddle the Sphinx and Kiksuya. So my big issue is, and we'll get to it, is the finale. I am not happy with it, and it kind of spoils things a little bit for me, but the show is still doing what I love about it. It's having us converse. It's leading to intelligent dialogue. It's leading to me learning about different aspects, whether it's tech, philosophy, theology, bioethics, or anything. So Living My Rhapsody, how did you feel about the season overall?
Well, technically I'm a lover, not a hater. So I'm going to start with that. And even though I noticed everything that was wrong with it, I did not give a flying fudge about it because I loved it. So I loved it. I saw everything that was wrong, but I don't care. I loved it. So
interesting. Johnny?
Well, the season overall was good. It didn't live up to the first season, and it would be really hard to. The questions asked and that you were made to ask yourself in the first season, I believe is going to be unparalleled. It's going to be hard to match that. But the middle of this season was fantastic, all the way from Riddle of the Sphinx to Les Ecorches, while I go ahead and butcher that name. All of it was just great. The fact that we actually got to see Ford show some emotion, and the fact that he really cares about something besides himself, maybe, was good for me. I really like that part. The whole ending and the lack of faith in humanity really kind of bummed me out. The fact that we don't have free will, so to speak. But I really enjoyed it.
I will get into whether or not we have. I think that the free will aspect is something that it's always going to pose, and it's always going to be up in the air, and something that's always going to be left ambiguous, and that's fine. I will get more into that. I take more issue with the more cemented down aspects that they really kind of challenge, like the very basis of evolution and so on. But yeah, I wasn't incredibly thrilled leaving the episode with the feeling of humanity is shit. I see a lot of people thinking that's a cool premise, and I find that to be an odd point of view. But BBM, how do you feel about humankind being kind of just garbage people? Worse than those Funko Pop addicts.
Yeah,
was that enjoyable?
I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, when you watch this season, like, there was moments where I said to myself, "God damn it, I hate being human." It's just like when I was watching like Planet of the Apes. It's like just like that. It was like way how they were freaking treating the apes. I'm like, damn, I hate being human. In this show, way how they treated the host, I'm like, God damn, I hate being a host.
Yeah, I think that they took a departure from just showing poor behavior from the humans, which is expected in the show, by subverting the evil robot trope to the real monster is the people that are losing their humanity in the park. But the way they're framing humanity as just hopeless and just competent in general, just kind of taking a whole new like glance at evolution and more like I said, like cemented down theories that are not really theories, like premises, thesis that people are pretty much accepting across the board. Like the ability to adapt is kind of like the whole strong point of our evolution. That's kind of like what spearheaded it. So then saying we don't change is saying we don't adapt. So it's just arguing against evolution. I thought it was an odd stance. AU, I know that you weren't too thrilled with the finale, but how'd you feel about the overall season?
Well, I think Brooks made a great point with the feeling like crap with the Planet of the Apes. It's a good simile, I think, on this show. But you've got to remember that I don't think if you looked at how you play a video game has anything to do with what we're talking about. And that's really what this Westworld premise is about. You can go in there and do things that are literally impossible in the real world. And that's the whole purpose, not just to create a map of what decisions you would make. And in this season, I thought this season did a great job. I gave it a 9 almost all the way across the board until we get to episode 9 and then of course episode 10. Both of those I gave a 6.5 and a 7.5, just because I don't want the average viewer of the show to get lost, and I hate to use that word, but not to be able to understand the concept of the show. The first season, yeah, it's great to have those hidden gems, like the Man in Black is William, the timelines, all of those things were wonderful, I thought. But in this season, the ability for the average person to watch and understand it, it was too high. The bar was too high, and I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, I find that interesting. By
the way, before I go any further, I just want to say what a brave job you did with this whole before the dust settles, because going on after the show and trying to understand it immediately and break it down, pretty much scene by scene it's just incredibly brave of you. And I think you did a great job. The way that I have to watch this show probably 3 times before I even come up with an understanding of, okay, I was definitely on to that, but you did it right away. And I just admired your bravery there.
Oh, well, thank you. That does mean a lot. Well, and you know that we were on one time, but I actually asked you to be on, I think, twice after that, and you were busy. So you were excellent, and thank you. I am kind of a hero for doing it. Now that I think of it, it does make me a hero. Thank you. No, it was a challenge that I set out to do it with, not only outside of my comfort zone as far as with the other hosts and people that I wasn't as familiar with, and people that definitely had opposing points of view, and try to tackle it. And I think we, for the most part, did a pretty good job. Usually I had more sleep than I have right now. I could do a better job of conveying my thoughts, but it's something I'm working on, and I appreciate it. I did want to touch on an aspect of what you just said, because it sounds like you take the park, and that's what I like about the shows, because it opens up these dialogues. Now, I think that what I take from the show, and there's no right or wrong, and that's another great thing, and that's when I run into issues, is when they present, and like, what is it, the Star Wars thing that says only Siths use absolutes or whatever. There are no absolutes when it comes to consciousness and sentience and all this. So from what I'm taking from what you said, is that you feel that the ability of the host to actually have like true consciousness, or what we'd consider to be sentient, that's what you hedge your deeds meaning, something on, like saying you can go and commit like debauchery in the park, as long as you don't consider the bots in which you're doing it to in nature to be sentient, because that justifies it to you. And I think that I take a different point of it. I think that it shows you losing your humanity when you go in there. It's not the nature of the victim. That's not what it all is hinging on. It's the wanting and yearning to hurt something that can feel. It doesn't matter the process in which it does. It's not the agency. It's the outcome. It's like, by definition, your humanity is showing compassion and love. So if you deny love and compassion and inflict pain on something that can feel pain, can feel love, whether you validate its methods in which it gets to it, because it was pre-programmed or not, it doesn't let you off the hook. And again, that's just like the premise I take from it. But I can see that people do relate it heavily to a video game as well, in virtual reality. So is there anybody on this panel other than AU? And AU, am I correct in that assumption there, that you do view, if the AI is not sentient technically, and again, subjective, that you're not doing anything that's out of line?
So are you asking us if we are agreeing that they are not sentient?
I'm asking if it is let's just pose it as ambiguous. Let's pose it as, let's just say that they're not, because you are the person that decides if they're sentient or not. Sentient is a word we made up. Consciousness is something we feel we have. It's, something that we can't perfectly explain. You can't perfectly frame it. So let's just say that we believe they don't, but they still for sure feel love, and they still for sure feel pain. And you go and inflict pain on them. Does that make you lose your humanity? I believe it does. It's not the agency of what you're hurting.
I mean, just giving pain to somebody for any reason, that's kind of on the border of not right in their head. But if they're feeling pain, I mean, different levels of what definition, what is sentient and what is not. I mean, but the first thing is, if they can feel pain, why would you want to do anything to hurt them? That's beyond crazy. First of all, that should step over there. But to me, they are sentient.
I think it's a really interesting conversation to have, because that's what the show is posing to us, essentially, because that is why it's so widely accepted. And we have to think, what if this was real? You know, you are going to try to probably reason this in your mind in a way that you are not responsible for these deeds. So AU, is that how? And again, this is not framing anybody as some psychopath. The only person that's a bad person on this panel is BBM, and everybody knows my feelings on him.
Since you said me, though, but in my viewpoint of it, it's like if I go to this park, and they said it earlier within the season, where it's like I come here, you know, to not be judged by God. So like, these hosts, you know, aren't, you know, quote unquote sentient, but I prefer calling them awake. Because the way how even like one stream, how you broke it down, like why you don't like them to be called sentient. But it's like the moment I know that, you know, they actually are loving and they actually could feel pain and stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Now you're taking the pleasure out of this game, this vacation that I wanted, to the point that, yeah, I just don't want part of it. Because more of the ignorance is bliss in this opinion, to the point that if you don't know, you're okay with it. But the moment they acknowledge that, yeah, these hosts are like awake and they feel and they love, it'll just take the fun out of it.
But in my opinion, I think even if they don't feel pain, but they exhibit the actions of pain, the person, let's say, for example, you're raping someone, you're still committing the act and concept of rape and performing it. Even if it's not real, it's happening in your mind, and that's what's getting you off, so to speak, for lack of a better term. I don't know, just, yeah, it really boils down to who you are deep on the inside.
Well, yeah, is this a true showing? And I'm seeing as Justin going deep. Yeah, we're going to be silly. We're going to go deep. I just found that these are the kind of, you immediately brought up one of the main draws of this show to me, because it has made me examine my own even spirituality to a point in the way in which we are pre-programmed, because we have to consider, you know, we might write it off as, oh, well, they're programmed to feel pain. That's not the same way we feel pain. Or they're programmed to do this. It's like, well, how many ways are we dictated by maybe a religious doctrine, or maybe just a strict upbringing in your formative years and aspects like that. And I think that's what this show is burning up. And now they're being a little heavy-handed with it, and we'll get into it with the finale of saying how exactly we're simple ass machines and we're just garbage, which I felt like they had a good conversation going, but then they didn't have faith in the fans, so they wanted to make sure, because they want us to question humanity. I think everybody was doing that after season 1, and then they really laid it on thick this season. But I got to get back to the culprit of this, because it sounds like AU might be ready to objectify and subject hosts to debauchery and all these abuses. And I thought you were a good guy, AU. What's up with this?
Well, when you go into the park and it's set up exactly for that. I mean, in the very first episode, we get where the guy says, yeah, I went with my family, all white hat. And then I went back and went black hat. And it was the best time of my life. I mean, everybody says, you know, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. And I've never been to Vegas, but when you think about that place, that's exactly what you think about. You do things you don't do in the real world. And it's not meant to hurt anybody. Same thing. Just because I kill people in video games doesn't mean I'm a killer. I can tell you that without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely. But these things feel pain.
All I can tell you is that, well, in this episode, the last episode, we heard Bernard. Pain is actually, it was 9. Bernard said, you know, pain is just a program.
But I mean, it is to us as well. So I mean, hey, these are interesting questions, and so you find it, since they can turn it. I mean, because you can turn off your pain with pain medication and anesthesia.
Sure.
You know, so what is I think it comes down to that we look at our biology as divine for some reason. We're these organic beings in our minds, because we don't have the sausage factory, like I like to call it. It's not a great metaphor, but you know, when you see the sausage being made, it's not as great. You don't want to see the process. It takes away the whole mystery behind it. And we have this illusion that we can say, well, we're different. You know what I mean? But it's like, well, pain is just like they can turn it down. I've had quite a few surgeries where they've turned my pain off and they've cut into me. So I think it's interesting though. And I think it's what they want us to explore. So we will, go and I think that a great concept would be, why wouldn't they just have the hosts as actor hosts, robot hosts that know, like, they're cognitive, they know that they're acting these parts out, and that would still fulfill the host. So it's kind of like a sycophant thing to do to set this park up in the first place. Like, I don't think it would really fly. But all right, let's move on. That is an interesting conversation that this show poses, and I think it's one that they want you to have. They want you to question what it means for you, humanity, to deny somebody else the luxuries of what comes with personhood. Essentially, is what is legally called, and that is the right to not be harmed. That is the right to be treated like not object, not to be objectified. It's called personhood, and the UK is actually passing laws right now that are going to help AI maybe achieve that one day. So it is something that in the not too far future will be an actual issue to deal with. And I have been to Vegas, and I didn't shoot anybody, but there is brothel-esque stuff that happens. Okay, so let's go to the finale. Obviously, I think that we all enjoyed the series, and nobody is going to stop watching it. Has anybody gotten to the point where they are just so disturbed? Because there are fans, there are people, they've spoken, and they've said, I'm not watching this. And I say, well, you got 2 years, and so we'll see. It was anybody that pissed? I was pretty pissed off by it. I won't lie, especially after a rewatch. But I wouldn't say it totally turned me off from the show, but it did. It made me think where they're going, and made me think that they didn't have much faith in us as fans. Did anybody else get the vibe of a little bit of a heavy-handed with the symbolism, heavy-handed with the messages, just going very one-dimensional on three-dimensional issues?
Right, yeah. They seem to just at the very end oversimplify a lot of things. Even when you think about how they portray humans, and we hear that Ford made every host from basically his personality was their base. So even though their code's more complicated, does that mean they don't have free will either? And no one has free will in the entire show, or only hosts have free will? I don't know. That really confused me with the finale, as well as I didn't like the way Lee or Maeve died.
Yeah, well, I like the poetic justice with Lee, but yeah, it wasn't necessary. I think that we have to, again, the series wants us to ask ourselves, can we really justify it and really verify that we have free will? And it kind of goes with a lot of Greek tragedy as well, that it's always about the gods already know the score of the game, but you play it the best you can anyways. That's all the Greek plays. Every major Greek tragedy, all the popular ones are all about trying to overcome fate, which is the same thing as Destination, same thing as being pre-programmed. In season 1, they kind of pose the host sentience. It hinges on if they're pre-programmed. So if they're pre-programmed, that means you don't have free will. If you don't have free will, you don't have sentience. So it's kind of like a 3-tier system. But we can pose that to ourselves too. I mean, BBM, can you say for sure that you make all your own decisions? Can you say that definitively?
No, that's still an open-ended question there. And even as, I'm not going to I'm Catholic, so even then it's like, I believe in, the concept of free will. But at the same time, it's like that's more on faith value there. And within this show, I believe it was episode, 6 or 7, where even when Ford was like, the free will of, it was Dolores, it was her decision to pull that trigger. But then Bernard is like, wait a minute, you sure that was her free will, or that's just the concept of free will? And they've basically been challenging this throughout the entire season here. We're questioning, wait a minute, was this, Dolores' decision? Was that Maeve's decision to even get off the train? And we actually got confirmation from Ford saying like, yeah, that was your decision. I wanted you to leave. Then now all of a sudden, she decided to, get off the train and go back to her daughter. So there are, some choices where the hosts actually do make on their own. At the same time, with the show Westworld, it makes us second guess ourselves. It's like, hold up, is this free will, or is this just the illusion of it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I really agree. And I think there's this odd benefit of that, of questioning whether or not you, I know it sounds crazy, and it's made me address, I have to, I probably am rambling, and this makes me feel real confident, makes me feel like I got some sleep. $100 super chat from Cameron Strand. God, I probably butchered your last name. Justin, this may seem over the top as a donation, but I've watched your channel all season. You've been brilliant. So just thank you. Hey, Cameron, thank you. You just paid for 2 months of all my editing software. You just made my life and me able to make content so much easier. And that means the world to me. Just you guys being here means the world. I can't tell you how much that $100 means. That is quite the gesture. And if you have any questions, I will try my best. And this panel of good people will try their best. Thank you so much. That is the nicest thing that somebody's ever done for me on here. Thank you. That means the world. And we try to have an intelligent dialogue, and that's what we're going for here. Just so if anybody wants to know anything, let us know. So I think that let's move it along. I do want to hear Living My Rhapsody and AU's opinions on this, because I mean, nobody has to divulge if they're religious or not. I will say I was brought up with a Catholic upbringing, and I lost those views, and this show actually did bring me back around to exploring my spirituality a little bit more oddly. So it's a very interesting circle that it's brought me in, when I thought that a show like this would make me actually steer further away. And nobody has to divulge stuff like that, but free will and stuff like that usually will center around your spiritual beliefs. So again, nobody has to talk about religion or anything like that. We might as well crack out beers and talk about politics too. But LMR, what are you secular? What faith are you? But sexual? No, I'm joking. How do you feel about having free will?
It's an open stream. So yeah, actually, to add to that, I was raised Catholic. Then I grew up a little bit, and did some soul searching, I guess, to kind of, I never took whatever people told me for granted. I always wanted to find my own stuff. So I look at things from a very broad perspective, and I have a background in different things as far as religion goes. But about the whole free will thing, I think we technically think we have it, but in a society like this, we don't. But I don't want the society to truly have free will, because then that will be chaos, and I don't like that much chaos. So over there, the idea of free will, I mean, we are programmed. Our program is our DNA, and we may not be hosts as far as hosts, but we're still hosting according to what we were programmed with. And somebody may say, oh yeah, my DNA, and there's this modern medicine and whatever else, and we can change. No, you rarely can change. Once you grow up, once you are who you are, it's really difficult to change your core values. So it's I have a perspective of it that we kind of have free will, but not technically, and I'm completely fine with it. I'm completely fine. I'm a rebellious person, but I'm not gonna rebel against that. That's just the narrative we have.
Well, and I think that's interesting, because that comes back, and I think that's what the show wants us to think, because if we ourselves can't, for just absolutely say we have it, then how can we deny it from the host? That's the question. AU? Religious background?
First of all, I know BBM has no free will, because he can't pass by a Funko without buying it. So we know the answer to that question. Yeah, I was raised Catholic too. I'm from an Italian Catholic family, so if you weren't Catholic, you were dead. And so, but I left the Catholic Church a long time ago, and I actually teach a Sunday school at my house on Sundays from 6 to 8, and that's one of the reasons why I couldn't make the streams a couple of times, is because I've got people in my house until after 9 o'clock when the show comes on. So it didn't work for me. But as far as free will goes, I think we have to understand what keeps us from making the same choices every day, whether it's something as simple as coffee or watching a specific live stream. So there's all kinds of things. You just have to realize that you are in a loop at some time.
Yeah, I think you have to distinguish between how much of this is just routine, because we are creatures of habit. And number one, I'd like to say that I have no problem with religion, but I do have a problem with it you interfering with my stream, AU. Okay? Nobody else's religion. You know, this is a secular stream, so we'll talk.
Hail Marys at the end of the night.
Yeah, I'll pan out the punishment.
Position.
Yeah, well, you better. I was an altar boy, and I was fine, by the way, everybody. And go over to Johnny. How do you feel about it? Do you feel that you can for sure say all your decisions are yours? Because there is a certain amount of liberty. I'll tell you what, I've made some bad decisions, and every once in a while, and I feel the Man in Black at one point this season, after he killed his daughter, was really hoping for some predestination, some pre-programming, because there is a certain amount of advantageous circumstances when you just did something horrible to say, I don't make my own decisions.
All right, I'm going to get semi-deep and say that there isn't really truly free will, but we're not all necessarily on the loop. It's more of a gray area. Like, we make choices based on our surroundings and our DNA. But we can always make a choice occasionally if you think about a certain scenario of when you chose to do something small, like, I don't know, take a piece of gum from a person, or whether or not to talk to a person. Different things in the environment can influence you to make that choice. Even weather can influence your actions as far as social things go. It's just, there's so many factors to free will that I don't think it's even cut and dry. I think we have choices in a sense, but we also are bound by our loops at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's interesting too, because you brought up a valid point that it's not just our political or maybe religious atmosphere, but it's also the actual fucking atmosphere. And that's why there's climate control in Westworld, you know. But it is true. Like, I started this stream 20 minutes late because I had to set up a fan because it was 90 degrees up here, you know, and I was irritated. So yeah, you know, everything, there's so many variables that play into it. So we have to really look at what's influencing us. I do want to bring up a aspect of the finale in which they state that they take a pretty interesting take on the best way to create a host is evidently to have Dolores created Bernard, and Bernard created Dolores. Now, I find a few things interesting about this, and we'll go to LMR and kind of keep the wheel thing going. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a terribly unorganized person. So I think it's a very, I'll say it. I think that's a stupid concept, but it's interesting because, number one, and I know the other YouTubers have said this, but one of the benefits of saying it, of having that immediate after shows, you say some pretty dumb stuff, but you get to say stuff first. Your formative years are very important for forming you. That's why they're your formative years. So I don't really think that the best person to, you know, that's if they're trying to build an ideal host, which I guess we have to hinge that on whether or not they think it's advantageous to put in that stuff. Maybe they see that as kind of like holding them back, because it's like your piece, everybody's different. I act different when I'm around my mother than I do if I'm with a girlfriend. I act different than when I'm around my, you know, yeah, and my boyfriend too. You know what I mean? All of them, it's just different stuff. You know, it's just everybody acts differently. So like and everybody has personal little like ticks that they don't divulge to people because it's weird. And you know, it's just common sense. So is that really like, do you think, I guess the question is, were they posing that as the most accurate way or the best way? Because if they're posing that as the most accurate way to build somebody, that's, I mean, I'll just say that's absolutely incorrect. But what could be the benefits to that, LMR? What's your take on that? Because that was a weird, and wasn't that a little bit of retconning as well? Because I'm pretty sure they showed Ford building Bernard, but I think they kind of met halfway. Like he said, he wouldn't let him take his first steps or something. So they kind of weaseled their way out of that one.
So again, to make sure I got your question correctly, meaning that Ford was building all his hosts based on his stuff, right? Like how he like perceived himself or what he wanted, right? Based on, is that your question?
No, sorry. Yeah, and it's totally my fault. It's the premise of specifically Dolores and Bernard building each other, and they were the best two for the job. And it's the premise of having somebody else's memories of you build that adaptation, our artistic, license, I guess would be the word for it, version of you. Because that's what they gave to us with that was the big twist that was they were building each other. It wasn't just him bringing her to her programming. It was her doing the same noticing. It's like kind of like co-op therapy, whatever.
Okay. Yeah. So my perspective on it is to get to one point, you need at least 2 points to get somewhere. You can't just point and get there. In order to get into a certain spot, to cross that, you have to have lines crossing. So you need at least 2. If you have 1, you can kind of go in a different direction. So having only one perspective of a person, that's not a complete view, because that's very personal and give representation, even if they are hosts. Hosts are programmed to think a certain way. So if they're building somebody, that's not a complete. I see flaws in it, because they can build it according to what they think, versus have different views converging, right, into one thing, and just that's how you get somewhere from 2 points. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it correctly, but
no, you
one
are.
Is not enough. One is not enough. It has to be at least from 2 different points. Then that's more representative.
Yeah, absolutely, because I mean, I would say it'd be fair to say that you with your husband, maybe your husband's build of you might conflict with maybe your mother's build of you, or I don't know people in your life, but yeah, they wouldn't be this. Well, no, I don't know. Maybe they share a lot of the same. No, you know what I mean. So like, it would be interesting. That would be interesting to see them play around with. But I felt like they took some like hard stances in this series finale that was really odd for them to take, especially with Evolution, when, like I said before, I don't think we were on air, they so elegantly handled like sentience and happy, because for a television show there is a certain amount of like absolute definitive like answers you have to give so like people can follow. So like there was, one of the other hosts apologize for me saying this, but I actually don't apologize. If you thought the maze was a physical thing in season 1, I'm sorry, you are not getting the show. Like I'm not one of those elitist people, but that is like, you're showing that like you watch something else. The show is like, you got to be looking at it deeper than that. And I heard some argue points to that, but I don't apologize. I mean, I think that.
Can I add something to that? I'm hoping you're going to say, I completely agree with you. It's not a physical thing, so I'm not arguing with that. But actually, the minute you started saying it, I always kind of look for different perspectives. So I agree with you. But the only reason why I'm thinking that somebody may think of it as an actual maze is it's a trial and error. So if you have a maze, you have to go somewhere and you're stuck. You have to go back. So when he was going somewhere physically, he was stuck until he found, let's say, Lawrence, that gave him a new route to go. So it's a physical person, but not actual map to follow on the ground, just kind of blank or empty. What do you call it? One dead end, go back. Somebody else is a dead end until you find that door, like Lawrence or whoever the guy was that he looked on the inside of his scalp. So that's the only thing I wanted to add. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I think that's like obviously like counterpoints and all that are very important. I just think that it's more like, if you're looking at it like that, you probably have more of a sense that like sentience is more tangible. It's not like, because the Man in Black was framed like that. Like everything with him has to be tangible. Even his marriage with his wife, the way he describes after she killed herself, it's odd. He's like, it's almost like it literally went away. He's like it dissolved. It's gone. Not like he doesn't like view that as even being a thing anymore. Like it's very odd the way he speaks. And I've seen it kind of really fleshed out by people that are far more intelligent than me. Some of these great like actual video essay channels and stuff have really talked about how he really needs to have like things that are tangible. Like that's why he was looking at the maze. Like, okay, maybe he did think it was like a fucking turn left and I got sentience. But yeah, a little bit, if you're approaching it with that, looking at it like that, then you're just looking at sentience as something you can reach out as a grab as well. So yeah, that's, a little bit of a construed way to look at it, but hey, everybody's got a point. Doesn't mean it's a good one. Go on to BBM. What is your whole viewpoint on Dolores building Bernard and Bernard building Dolores? Do you think, oh, that's cool because that's not how you thought it happened and they showed you something different, so that's fun? Or do you think it's kind of silly?
I don't think it was kind of silly because the whole Dolores was the one who built Bernard. It kind of made sense for me because even though with the whole memory thing, it's like Ford didn't truly know Arnold. So it's like, okay, I know someone else who pretty much spent more time with him besides me, and it was kind of Dolores. And the way how in season 2, I believe it was with the second episode where it opened up to like him explain like, oh, you spend so much time with Dolores, it would make sense that she would be taking part in it. Like granted, like I think it was like Ford who actually created like the whole host body of Bernard, but then it was like more of Dolores like also being like a co-creator in a sense. So that I would actually agree with. It didn't really bother me as much.
They also have perfect memories, I'd like to add, but still, it's not the same person in my eyes. But that's another debate.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Johnny. It's like when the person dies, it dies, but this is more just the memory, and it's like that memory of that individual just, for me, just can't adapt. It's just basing on just that loop of like how they were just created from that said memory.
Well, that's human beings, and we'll get to that because evidently our evolution of being able to adapt is the inability to change. But hey, maybe it's just code. Yeah, I don't know in AU. I'm going to go to you for this. Like, I still can't tell after the third rewatch if they're trying to like really push that as the means that they had to use, but it does seem to me that they're really kind of like saying that's the way to go about it. So I have to think to myself and be, like subjective and go, okay, maybe that is like more of like a dialogue on your actions are what people are going to remember of you, like not your good intentions that you don't act out, that you need to actually like, you know what I mean? It's that whole thing of, oh, I always wanted to do that right thing. But you ended up just, Lee ended up doing the right thing. So people will remember that. I mean, is it a dialogue on that? I'm trying to see the benefits of something like this to have a dialogue like that, because it just seems like a really shitty way to build something.
I think because so many people realized that the openings of last year's episodes, Arnold was the one talking to Dolores in the very beginning, and it wasn't Bernard, that they had to overcome that somehow this year. And so that was their way of allowing us to say, we can build these hosts from memory, which I don't believe that anyone can do that based on what we've seen in the Mesa with the white milk and the constant piano wire going back and forth on these beings. It's not just physical. There's a tremendous amount of mental part too. And then at the season finale, to do that, it took 12,000 tries, and she still not got it right. So, yeah, I definitely don't buy into the whole we can build it from memory. I think it's much more complicated.
Yeah, because I guess with James Delos, that's proven as well. Even though then you're dealing with the hybrid, because there is a difference there. But yeah, I thought they took some odd choices, and I thought that let's be positive for a minute. And I'm talking to myself. I think a really good choice they made this season was finally showing, because if anybody's watched me, they know how mad I get about people wanting Ford to be in control of everything, and Kiksuya really showed that. And I had said this so many times, like, and then I ended up like going away from my simple premise. Like the only theory I had to do with the maze thing this season, because like I just got sick of being such a basic bitch about it. But I was just like, oh, that makes sense that they would come more naturally to their, like center, because they live a nomadic lifestyle. Indigenous people are more attuned to their actual fucking, like, the land they live on, and the land they live on is code. They are more attuned. They don't outsource anything. So it just makes sense, because even their narratives would be less like intrusive, because they are outliers in the narrative as well. So it's like they're just going to be meddled with less. And the lack of fingerprints on the host by even Ford is what allows them. It was shown that it's not man that made them great. It's when they finally got their damn grubby hands off, and that was good to convey. And even if you look at it, what I love too is people are like, well, Ford was still interfering because that's why, you know, Kichida was able to walk through that, you know, Delos without anybody seeing him. I'm like, well, probably also they couldn't pay the extras for that day. But also, even if Ford did make like certain things happen to help cloak him, all he's doing is making sure nobody like messes with him. So it still works, because we have to believe that we have to believe that they have as much free will as we believe we have. I believe that's the point they're trying to convey, at least. So to have Ford control everything, like with Bernard, I got really worried when he just literally like took the wheel. You know, did you guys? I think that was one of the best received episodes, and it was, again, was a linear story. And last year, Maeve's storyline was one of the fan favorites, and that was the most basic and linear. I think that they really ignore that, and they do things for a twist's sake. And I'll get to this Ocean's 11 body swap, unjustified construing of memory. In my opinion, that did not be, or AU. I know you have some good metaphors for this, but you know, Bernard messing with his memories is not justified whatsoever, in my opinion. But you know, I think there's something to be said for that good old fashioned linear narrative, and I think the people really take to it. And even Riddle of Sphinx is more linear, and I think they ignore that for some reason. But I'll pass it on. Open up the panel. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah, I'd like to say, you know, I think Ford tried to help Akichita a little bit. His narrative was changed. He was pushed a little farther out in the park. He was changed to be a little more savage. And I think the fact also that he survived so long really contributed to his development of consciousness, because he was able to keep reliving and remember and not be reset every time he went in. I think that was very key. Yeah, I don't think Ford directly manipulated events with Akichita. I think it just kind of happened, and then he helped his flower flourish. He watered the plant, so to speak. I'll let whoever else go next.
Perfectly said. Yeah, I think that's the vibe I got, and I think that's a good concept to introduce, to finally take his hands off those wheel. And there's still people that are saying Ford planned it all, but even if they're saying that, it just means he planned it so people didn't fuck with him. So it works. But then again, he meets a very one-dimensional ending this season. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But anybody else has a feelings on Akichita? Did anybody else do a video where people corrected the way you said his name a million times?
I think there is just this thing about accidents happening, right? Because Ford throughout, I mean, he creeped the heck out of me. When I don't see facial expressions and people, like if they're very much keeping the face all the same, that just kind of makes me want to take a couple steps back slowly. And he really creeped me out. The only time he was laughing was with Maeve, or smiling was with Maeve, and then he was truly surprised, to me at least, when he encountered Ake. I think that's I'm gonna say it this way to not butcher it anymore. And I think he was surprised by it, but those little surprises, those little changes in evolution make things happen or possible. So I think he was truly surprised, and he liked what he saw, and he helped it. He didn't destroy it. He was like, I guess, the whole God complex with Ford. He noticed something that he maybe didn't create, and he wanted to just help it. That's my perspective on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's giving, like, it's you know, the whole first season is the trying to get them to the original sin, essentially. Dolores, and somebody brought it up as a good point earlier. I forget who. I apologize, but it was technically her, but it was so coerced that it's argued. So it's kind of the whole idea of God just, for some reason, said, you know, in the story, you know, taking it just as a story, using as a metaphor, just said, okay, you guys just don't eat off that bush. I take that, or whatever tree. I take that as more of a metaphor for him seeing if they wanted to make their own decisions. And again, I take it as a story, not something that really happened. But yeah, I take it as, like, you know, you give people the option to do their own thing, because an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good God will know the events of everything. So how does free will exist with that being an idea? So that I think is the issue. So Ford is kind of that being.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if you don't give them the choice, how will you know?
That, yeah, that's, you know, what I'm saying is that he had to pose a choice because they never agree to it in the story. Like Adam and Eve, they don't like agree. Like they don't say, okay, I don't believe. I believe it's just him. You know, there's like no reason. It's not like he had a favorite plan. I mean, essentially in this metaphor, a all-powerful God can create as many fucking trees as he wants to. So I think you're right. You know, like you have to pose the question to them. So like Ford is posing the question and he is giving them the opportunity to pick between his narratives, the bliss that he speaks up to a point of the predestination, the, you know, pre-programming, the not being responsible and not remembering. And he gives them the choice of pain or bliss. Pain can't be ignored.
And you can't fully appreciate bliss without having a little pain in your life, in my opinion.
Yeah, what did that guy?
Completely agree with them.
That Delos Tech. That they seem. Does it seem like to be one of those guys? You got to be a pervert. Because yeah, I think that you have to be a pervert to get that job, unless you're Felix. And well, I think that Sylvester's probably still a pervert. But yeah,
it's
that guy was
application.
Yeah, definitely creep. You got to be a creep. Because he's like, there ain't no joy without pain. He's like, listen to music. It's like you need to take a that's segue into how incompetent the QA was. Man, show don't tell. At every moment.
What was his name? I think you said Sylvester. Did you mean the guy with the saw that he was about to cut into my?
No, Sylvester is the one who's always hanging out with Felix, his partner there.
Yeah.
Red hair.
The other one, I just immediately call him like the Kyburn of Westworld at this point.
Okay. Yeah. He was creepy. He was just sick. I'm surprised that they didn't do a psychoanalysis on him before hiring him. Such a company, and they don't even do a good job testing people.
Well, I think it's part of like I think AU's onto something. I think you have to be like a sicko to do that job. You know what I mean? Because I mean, look at that other guy from last season. I was just saying, I'm not ruling Sylvester out as a sicko myself. I just think Felix, his association with Felix, has given him kind of like some nudity that he might not deserve. But yeah, it's the whole aspect of QA is our antagonist this season. And yes, there are multiple antagonists. There's also the struggle within. I don't think it needs to be a basic bitch story. I know the argument that there doesn't need to be a hero. I understand narrative. But let me say this. Basic storytelling 101, establish stakes. This season was the organic time to introduce stakes, because you have an issue when you're dealing with immortal bots that seem like they can't be killed. There's no stakes. And then you have even more stakes if you have human deaths that can be brought back as hosts. You need to establish a definitive way, a consistent way. All you have to do is establish rules and stick to them. And then you will have suspension of disbelief. Everybody knows it's a TV show. There's always that prick in a story that can be like, well, they should have just done this. And then I'm like, well, then there wouldn't be a show. And then there wouldn't be the story. But then there's things like, okay, you have to also justify these things a little bit more when you tell your story like a fucking jigsaw puzzle. Because that last piece, that finale, is the vivid picture. So we have to say, oh man, all this time that we are seeing all this misdirection was justified. So you actually have a lot more scrutiny. So you shouldn't have inconsistencies with, first off, what, I mean, are the pearls bulletproof? I guess they are. Also, Clementine was brought down by 2 stray bullets. Dolores seems to just be able to do whatever. QA at every moment said they were like, it was like almost like a South Park episode where all these agencies keep coming in and trumping each other and then getting trumped. It's like FBI, no, CIA, no, whatever, DEA. They kept dropping in like Delta, and they're like, we got this now. No, they constantly underestimated the host, which they shouldn't be doing. They should be fully aware of their capabilities, and they never achieved one task. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, do you have a question for like maybe BBN?
I think that was the question I think he was posing with the stakes and stuff. But it's like, I was going to ask, like, I think when it comes to those pearls, I think they're made of vibranium. It's like they're just that strong of material, and they're kind of confirming that Park 4 is going to be Marvel World. I'm telling you. But even then, like, I'm confused with that too, because the way when I saw like Teddy shoot himself, I'm like, okay, Teddy's done. There's no coming back for Teddy. It's game over. Then near the end of the episode, we see like Dolores is uploading into like freaking Eden World. So I'm like, okay. So I'm guessing at this point in time, I really don't expect even like hosts to die or freaking humans to die at this point. That there is a way for this show to bring back every character. And it's like at the same time, it's like now I kind of feel less pissed off that they shot Elsie. Because at this point, they can just pretty much Bernard can just create another Elsie and I could be okay. Granted, it won't be the same Elsie, but they can like still bring it back.
Yeah.
But,
go ahead.
Even given that, though, that almost lowers the stakes a little bit for me. It doesn't make it just, kind of like Justin said. I don't know. It was really odd, My main question is, how did Teddy end up in the water? Like, really? Tell me how that happened. And then we just have all these crazy things that don't fit in if you rewatch the whole season and then the finale. It just really bothers me.
The Teddy thing did bother me, and then someone explained that when it was flooding, I'm guessing it just like flooded a whole area to the point that it caught where Teddy was. So I'm guessing that explains it all. Because even how
but he didn't have a bullet hole. He never had a bullet wound.
Yeah, these are issues. And now, and like I was saying, now, LMR, I'm going to pass this on to you as organically as I possibly can. But you're an author. Now, you're writing this story. This story in the first season, it sets up the perfect storm to have no stakes because the whole sentience is hinged on pain, right? So obviously, all your characters are going to be subjected to a lot of brutal treatment because the whole progression of your character progression depends on pain. It literally depends on them to be just fucking blown up all the time. Shot Teddy's Swiss cheese all the time. Maeve is killing herself every other episode. I'm not trying to be funny about it, but this now, when they're out in the wild, they don't have the facilities. This is the natural opening for you to write into the story and write your rules because it's a story. You make the rules, you establish how they can be gone forever. That which is real can't be replaced. It's like, well, how do you go away? Like, I don't know. Like, 'cause Teddy could probably drown in soup from the looks of it, and you can run through a fucking missile storm. So, like this was the organic opening because this made sense story-wise to show them being actually in danger. And I feel they really just created less stakes when it was almost hard for them to do. Like, I think it was literally hard to write this season in the way they did. Like, it was hard not to establish stakes. And I mean, do you agree with that? Am I being too hard on them?
Well, from again author's perspective, what I don't like, I kind of judge too harshly. That's why I'm trying to kind of shut my judgment because nothing is perfect. But I don't like the way, for example, if you hook somebody right with in that show, there was a lot of violence and a lot of sex, right? That's kind of and a lot of brain teasers for us. So when you start a season like that and then you continue with a season like that, I'm expecting the writing to get better, to add on to things, not to take away. So they decreased, some things, and they shifted. So to me, it's the plot holes are very annoying, very, very annoying. That's just my judgmental side. When you have beta readers, and I'm sure they have beta readers for scripts, they must have not listened or they lost a lot of copies of feedback, because if even half of this panel was on it, even if 2 people were on it, they would have caught all the loopholes, not loopholes, all the little plot holes. So I don't think I'm answering your question, but as an author, that kind of triggers me when it's not done correctly. And it can be done. That's why it's not just one person writing, it's a lot of people before it goes into production.
Script supervisor, continuity editor, all those people are in charge of that.
With a author, like a self-published person like I am, it's all my fault. If you see something wrong, it's all on me, baby. But that's just, they didn't do it by themselves. They did it with a lot of people. So I'm sorry, there's no excuse. I'm still loving it. Don't get me wrong. I loved it to as much as a person can love a show because it's entertainment. But if somebody would ask me for my professional opinion, not as a show watcher who's geeking out to this awesomeness, I would say they screwed up. But
Yeah.
I would still watch it. I would still watch it and recommend it to everybody. So.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between shitting on something to shit on something and then holding something to a standard. Because again, plot holes are acceptable. The whole simulation thing with physics, that the bullets don't make sense to begin with. I accept that. I'm not going to pick that apart because the theme is still there. I don't care if Bernard was technically wearing 3 different shirts and that messes up the timeline. Want to know why? Because that doesn't mess with the overall theme. But not establishing stakes. And again, this is for them to do. Like, it's just set your rules and stick to them. You know, like Game of Thrones messes up here a little bit when they're like, you know, they can't go south of the wall unless they can. They can't swim unless they can't. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, you got to stick to what you say. So, but to not, like, some people, and this comes to mental gymnastics to just make everything all right. And I don't think there's any good in that. I don't think it's advantageous to just make up excuses for everything. I think it's to suspend disbelief when it's acceptable. If you go to a puppet show just looking for the strings, you're a dick. You know what I mean? And you can pick this show apart, but then why are you watching it? But to say that the not establishing stakes is smart, because it's not really about life or death. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. That sounds very deep. Anywhere else? You know, like I heard a lot of very intelligent content creators just talk about how much they love the concept of how people are so limited and humans are so simple. Oh, it's really interesting how we're so simple and basic. I'm like, how is that? Like, again, like, I don't think they're even posing that to us for us to be like, yeah, they're having that so we have conversation about it. Not so we're like, isn't it awesome how bad we are, how bad we're being portrayed in a television show? Like, how do you get behind these ideas? You know, I mean, to sit there and not discuss a topic is just ignorant. I mean, to pick it apart, you know, that's stupid. But that's why it lends itself so well to theory crafting, because people can make theories out of all their inconsistencies.
Hey,
and,
Justin, not to interrupt you, but were you able to see Laura's question in the chat, in our chat?
Let me look. We have
so Laura D. Yeah, she asked, please tell me your thoughts on what William's next move will be. Will he go into the real world to find Dolores or Charlotte? And she says, thank you, because you're such a great host.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing what I asked last night, keeping me in line. We saw a time jump. Another thing they introduced that I thought was unnecessary, and I thought if they were going to do, they could have actually waited. I thought that they started to layer William even more with Riddle's Sphinx, and then they drowned him in madness within an episode, and now we are seeing a hybrid version that's confirmed. I don't know if William has any agenda other than just trying to get out of this loop, because apparently what we saw in that cutscene, spoiler, is years down the line, and he has been going through the same actions. He's caught in that plateau. He's in a loop, and that's why he keeps getting, I guess, the same exact shit keeps happening to him. So I don't think that he's in a position to go and seep out anybody. If he's a hero that we were looking for, we need to look elsewhere.
Well, she might be talking about when he's on the beach still alive at the end when Dolores leaves, whether he's going to leave the island or not. I think that's what she's talking about.
Well, what's your take on that, Johnny? I think that he was just going into madness, because I don't have any other way to explain his activity. He met up with Dolores, and they said they needed to do that, but why did they need to ride on a horse together for 2 minutes and then him get shot?
Okay, so there's something up with that for me. For one, he is senile. He's done gone insane. He's a sundowner, as I would say. Like, he goes all the way there with Dolores. It's like Dolores knows something we don't already, as usual. What else is new? It was odd, but I think if he's still alive, you got to remember we got Stubbs, who's now a host, and on the inside, and possibly can help Dolores, whatever you want to call her. You know, the Man in Black might not make it out alive, but I think it's possible that Dolores could create a host Emily and make his crazy ass think that he really didn't kill his daughter. Perhaps to maybe gain the share of the company. I don't know if that would be advantageous or not, but that's just my crazy take on it.
Yeah, I don't think that this Disneyland is too fiscally sound right now. I don't know, guys. I mean, this narrative, the door was supposedly for the MIB. That makes me think that Ford really just didn't like the MIB because his whole situation just went down real quick. And that's another thing I thought breadcrumbs could have been dropped for, his PTSD. That would have been cool to see, like, James Delos' hand, his like PTSD drop throughout the seasons. And then that happening, that's more fun for me than an after show credit of them saying Subs is a host for no damn reason at all. And now how cool is that I can go back and rewatch? I'm like, that's not cool at all. Actually, like, I think you should be more subtle, and you should be, there's something to be said for a light touch. And maybe we could have been like, what is this hand that he's seeing? And then you finally meet James Delos, and then you put that together. That's clever to me. Not, ooh, this person's not who we said they are. Now we told you, go back and rewatch. That's kind of basic shit to me. I don't like that one bit. So Ford's whole idea for the MIB, it was not nice. But I will let somebody else talk on it. Did you guys enjoy where they went?
There's a question. There's actually go ahead, BBM. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me with the after credit scene, I didn't mind it. It's like I took it the same way as if I'm watching like a Marvel like after credit scene. It's like, I don't know where in the world is this like scene taking place, but I think its message was that we were having an idea for where the Man in Black is going to go for season 3. Because without that after credit scene, I'm going to be like, okay, then what's going to be his purpose next season? Like, is he just going to go and commit himself because he realized that he just killed his daughter? And if so, for me, that storyline is boring, and I wouldn't care for a storyline. But after seeing the after credit scene, I'm now more intrigued about, okay, so some point in time he's going to die and he's just going to be a host. And we see his like, or about a host of his, daughter is like giving him his infidelity test. So I'm like, okay, now I'm more intrigued. That's why I didn't mind the after credit scene. Was it confusing? And it still is. Yeah. And it's Westworld, so I'm not really bothered by it, but that's how I saw by it. What were you saying, Elamar?
Yeah, I was just going to add to what you were saying. Actually, apparently I was going to add to it. I didn't know we were going to go that way. But there's, based on what you were saying, there's a question or a theory in the chat here by Philly Pick. It says here, theory, MIB is being resurrected in the far future to be used as a cog against Dolores, is some sort of host civil war. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I still think like in the future, like if Dolores wins, like they're possibly like, okay, like I guess Bernard is like, okay, we need someone, and that's gonna be like the Man in Black, and that's why he got the Emily host, and now he's brought back like the Man in Black, because that's like the only person that could possibly defeat him. That, or maybe Dolores wants the Man in Black for some type of like goal or something. It could be like so many possibilities where they can go with it.
Yeah, I mean, what was in line? Why did they say that? Why they're like, ooh, well, it looks like our interests are in line. He's like, until they're not, and then right away they weren't. Like, what the hell was that about? Like, AU, is there something I'm missing? Was it just too smart for me? As maybe some Redditor would point out that some stupid continuity error, and they'd be like, actually, it's because of this freeze frame.
No, I don't think it was beyond you, or it was too smart for you. I think we never really see the Man in Black's main issue as far as why is he always considered to be the evil guy. Obviously we think that he rapes Dolores from the beginning, from the very beginning of the show, and we always see him as the bad guy, but really, other than what happens in the park, we never really see anything that he does that's bad. Obviously, when he kills his daughter, folks, let me tell you, that's bad. Okay, don't do that. But other than that, especially on Father's Day, that's a double bad. But so I think what this was showing is that this guy will double cross you in a heartbeat, whether it's in the real world or whether it's Dolores, who is now, fully understanding of what the Man in Black has done all these years. So I think that's why they showed that. Well,
because everything he did, if we frame it in the way of how they came to their ascension is not actually, because number one, we were made to think that he raped her. We're not sure. Yes, killing your daughter on, I think if you can do it, it's any day. It is Father's Day. You should be able to decide if you want to have a Father's Day or not, and that's a way to not have one. I'm just saying.
Can we ask if we think that he actually raped her or just dissected her to see what was going on?
Yeah, yeah. What do you guys think in the chat about that? I would just say that they left it ambiguous because they just want us not to know. But if still his primary drive is to get them conscious, then what is his best case scenario is what I'm posing. What was like the best case scenario for him? Like, say he didn't kill his daughter. He did get to the forge, or was that where he was going? Like, I don't get what his end game was. I think that he was a really layered character, and now, but BBM has a good point that is not necessarily the next time we're going to see him, because that was far in the future. So we still could see story from him in between that. But yeah,
are we talking about the time when he goes into the barn with the lords? Is your question?
That was a used question of what we think happened there.
For me, I think it's like open up to like the audience's interpretation. Like for me, I'm guessing he could have raped her, or he just simply just tortured her. That's how I looked at it.
And I think that if we're not shown something, our mind works wonders, and it's much worse in our imagination than it may actually really be. So I like the fact that I didn't show some stuff, because we can make it whatever we want to make it, as scary or as simple as it is. So I think I'm hoping that they went for it. I'm hoping that they didn't just kind of got lucky with it. I hope that it was their intention. And as far as what is William's whole thing about, I think he basically, the only time he feels anything is in Westworld. That's the only time he felt anything. So he was there on that trip. He discovered all of his emotions. Finally, they all came out. And after he was done, he went back to reality. And that's when he discovered that he can't feel anything. Like, he didn't love his wife. He didn't feel anything. That's how I take it. So maybe he thought that he is not real because he can't, like, there's nothing in him, nothing triggers him, nothing will make him emotional. So maybe that's why, one of the reasons, because I didn't see him cry over his wife. I saw shock on his face when he saw his wife, but there was no, like, you know, like, I know everybody reacts differently to seeing something so traumatic, but for a person who loves, there would be more pain in his eyes, not just shock. So I'm thinking his quest was to find his humanity, to find something that will make him feel, and maybe he found it.
Yeah, it is important to note that the narrative loop that Dolores was in, that every night, whether Teddy was there with her or not, that ranch was raided. And we did see with what's his name, when she does shoot him, that somebody does attempt to sexually assault her, that whether it's a host or whether it's a person, that is her loop. At the end of the night, it is always the Abernathy ranch is always raided. She is always pulled into the barn. Sometimes Teddy fends them off. Sometimes, you know, different variations happen, but it is happening no matter if the MIB is there or not. So he is sticking to their loop. Not that makes that any better. It's like the whole situation, this like sick situation they set up, but it's the whole question of, well, if it's for the good overall, I guess, you know, I mean, I don't know. I never bought into the pain, and somebody brought up in the chat that why didn't we explore more? And I thought we were going that way with Maeve, with love, you know, could be just as potent and powerful. You know, I don't buy into you can only ignore joy, not pain. It's like, I don't know. And, you know, I think that's a pretty simple premise for it.
It's interesting you bring that up, LMR, because it's like, I wish in that scene of where the man in black, you know, saw his wife, you know, commit suicide, like, I wish he, like, you know, grabbed his arm and tried to, like, see if there was, like, any wires or something, but we don't get that. So it's like, it's very hard to see, like, okay, did he actually accept? Like, okay, did my wife just literally commit suicide, or am I still in the game or something? You know, and that's one thing I wish, like, the show would have put in that scene.
Right. And it makes you wonder how long he's been questioning whether he's a host or not. Because when he found out how real Dolores was and fell in love with a robot and felt duped, and then, you know, I think it just brought out his true colors. I think it was the trigger. It's very complicated, but he is basically paranoid. He's a host this whole time. He's been thinking ever since he started that immortality project. I believe he's been worried about it. And what gets me is he knows he's being recorded, but he still does all these things to be put into his data file. So it's like he doesn't even want to hide from what his immortal self will be at all. Like, he has no shame in the park. It's odd. He almost has no shame outside the park either. He's a ruthless businessman. He ruined the entire Delos family. So he didn't kill outside the park, so to speak. But yeah, he's a tragic character who I thought might have a redemption arc, and that is just completely blown up. He's just a serial killer, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy his rapid descent into madness because I thought Riddle the Sphinx opened up. I never looked at him as completely evil because I think the situation with Juliet was a little bit, it wasn't just one-sided. I think that he's a man of absolutes. Look at how he tries to see if he's crazy. He goes and kills Maven, his daughter, but also look at what he does as a philanthropist. Look at the donations he makes. So it's like, I'm going to be absolutely good or absolutely evil. And I think that even the good that he did could have still been for good, but Juliet saw that as usury because of the family name. So even his successes are a failure. His successes outside the park are a failure with his wife, and his failures within the park are, a fucking success, I guess, for the host, but a failure for him as well. So he's a tragic character for sure. I wish, especially when people saying, well, we got to see how it all plans out, because it is 5 seasons. That's a very optimistic, and I love the show, but I think it's a little bit sketchy just to say that, well, we got to give them all. It's like, no, you do need to set like story arcs for seasons and pay them out as well. I understand the whole thing that we look at it as a whole. I'm not an idiot, but I do think that it was like, hey, if we got 5 seasons, why did we have to descend into madness this season? I thought Riddle the Sphinx was going the other way with it, but I don't know. I guess he's just a wacko. But BBM, you do bring up a good point. From what I'm taking, you don't think that, you think we might get him an earlier version of him still, right?
Yeah, of him like still human. Sometime within season 3. Because we still don't know like when exactly did he die. And from what I'm getting, but you know how Westworld is, for they can just pull the rug underneath us and say, oh no, the whole time he was a freaking host. But when the Delos SWAT team or task force, whatever you want to call them, like they did find him. And I'm still kind of hard to believe with that, because every time when you see anyone even approach him and in Black during him in his game, he always either just ignores them, tells them like, just go F off, or he would hide from them. So it still bugs me that they were able to even find him.
Yeah, it's a big issue that their Jeff Bezos is running around with bullet holes and nobody gives a crap. But AU, any thoughts on that?
It's TV.
Yeah, but they're
Walking Dead, man. You've seen The Walking Dead.
No, I don't see it anymore, BBM, because I have standards. I said no. I said this should be the time that they should have their best arc. They're dealing with their best antagonist, Negan, and they're dropping the ball. And I said, fuck this, and I showed some restraint, and I stopped watching it. And guess what?
You made a choice.
Yes. I just watched Peaky Blinders for like the 800,000 fucking time.
Exactly.
But Negan made the choice for you.
Yeah, just poor. Yeah. I got sick of like seeing like no-name red shirts like do a good thing and being like, oh shit, they're gonna die. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's just very, very heavy-handed. But yeah, that show is fucked. Sorry for anybody that likes it, but Rick Grimes is out. You're done. Have fun with Daryl. See how good of a standalone main character he is as your protagonist. The loner, the silent loner. He's going to drive that narrative like a motherfucker.
Anyways, so you were asking about the Man in Black being shot up like a piñata.
Yeah, nobody seemed to care. They're like, hey, that's the owner. He's kind of responsible for this. Like, at the very least, he had some like insurance papers he surely could have been signing, right?
That was from the it was really one of the things that aggravated me with episode 9. there's a point where you have to realize that this isn't, you know, a BB gun. So that's the problem.
Yeah, and again, like they introduced these very powerful, like I thought it was beautiful what they did with Maeve. Again, one-dimensional deaths, and we know that it's not definitive because there's everything but the gunk and like thumbs up and the wink with Sylvester and Felix about bringing her back, which is great and that's fine. But like these one-dimensional deaths for three-dimensional characters at the end in the Valley Beyond, it's framed in one light, like in one frame, literally, like it's a good thing. That's the arc. Akicheta gets there. He's there with his love. I don't know her name. Akane, I think. And no, that's
Kohana.
Yeah. Kohana. Oh, yep. So I just pissed a lot of people off. I can't wait for the comments. Yeah, that guy pronounced it wrong. He doesn't get the story. But yeah, like it was a victory, you know, like to have Maeve's daughter get there, right? And then Dolores kind of shits all over it. And then I'm fine with layers, but it's really weird where they're injecting them because it's like, it's kind of like a freaky situation when we realize that Teddy's sitting there waiting for Dolores, who's never going to come, you know? Like, how do you view the Valley Beyond? Because it would have been better if they would have had the choice and not had Dolores making that choice for them, in my opinion. How do you guys in the chat feel about the Valley Beyond? Because that is kind of framed as a lot of people view heaven, which I've always had an issue with, like eternal, everlasting bliss, because, you know, I've got my foibles. I'd like to have a night out. So I don't know, like, how much you enjoy sitting in a sunny field for like the rest of your life.
I'd like to say I'm almost positive the Valley Beyond is not safe. That has to be too valuable a thing for the hosts, in my opinion. And I mean, Teddy did kill himself to get away from Dolores, so I think he doesn't mind being in the sublime, as it's called, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it because it's intangible in a way. But then, you know, how do you define tangible? That's really another question. So
it was interesting how she was putting coordinates in. It kind of was like the Stargate, just kind of dial in and shoot them somewhere. But I know it's virtual, but still, like, how does she, like, random numbers? Does it go like to a different address?
Well, because they said in the after show that they wrote it in the script that way, Elmar. So yeah, very unsatisfying. But all we know is it went somewhere where they can't get. Yeah. And now, like, you know, like Hax had a breakdown and he was talking about it, and he was even identifying possible plot holes. That's where it's not advantageous to start looking into that tech, because you're just going to be mad because it's not making a lot of sense.
Just wondering. I'm wondering if they're going to show it to us. That's actually that is what's interesting to me. If they're going to show it later on, if they're going to address it, that whole address, like if there are different places you could go. I'm actually looking forward to it if they're going to talk about it later. Not as a plot hole, but as a place.
It could be in a server at Arnold's house. You know, there's no restriction.
I bet it's on Hillary's. I bet it's on Hillary's server. That's what I bet it's on.
No, I wonder if it's going to go that way. If they're going to go that way, if they're going to go like to virtual reality and just different places where you can exist and be. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to do anything like that, or they're going to stick to actual tangible world.
Yeah, I mean, like, is Akicheta gone now? You know, I mean, like, do we think that everybody that's in there is gone? Is that like the end of them? I don't know if that's been defined. I mean, because I think in the end, I mean, I don't like introducing the ideas of simulations within simulations. That's never great for storytelling. But yeah, that it's introduced. So I mean, like, are we losing? Because Maeve's daughter kind of has to go. Vanessa Cole brought this up in the pre-stream. You know, she's a child actor. She's going to age, so you can't really keep her around. But you know, I don't know. What do you guys think? You think that, like, Akicheta, somebody that was Zahn McLaren, such a renowned performance, will be gone forever?
I don't think they can be gone forever. Like, we got like 3 more seasons. Like, I would expect like maybe like in the very final season we might get like everyone back. Like, for as of now, like possibly no. I think they might put it on the back burner. But there's like so many possibilities where they can go with it. Just seeing like only like Dolores knows where it is, it's okay. So I'm guessing within the Dolores arc for next season, we might, you know, get like a callback to it. That's how I see it.
And is my understanding, guys, that Bernard built the Valley Beyond, right?
I'm still on the fence with that myself, because even then, how we know like how Ford commands Bernard to do certain stuff, it's like, was it truly Bernard that created it, or was it Ford? So it's still up in the air. Even like Elsie was like, you have so much bad code in you, how do we know that you did certain things?
He's like, why don't you go talk to Charlotte Hale and see how that works out, smartass.
Go ahead, Elamar. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I wasn't. I think I was just clicking away here. I don't think I was saying anything. Was I? Am I glitching?
No, I was going to ask in the beginning of the construction of the forge, the semicircular array creation device that was used for the Valley Beyond, that was there. So why would Delos put that there when the whole idea was for all of the host memories to go into that device? That doesn't make any sense. So it must have been something that Bernard or Ford perverted to create a space for them. That's the only thing I can think of.
And it was really not to scale, right? Because the original ones are kind of just like maybe from here to here, right? The ones that we actually see them using.
Those were for the ones that were in the forge.
Okay.
But the one that they went through the door, quote unquote, you can see that being suspended while that hole was open during the construction. You can see the big semicircular device.
Yeah, but it was huge, wasn't it? That's why I'm saying, to me, it didn't look to scale. It looked like it was like I don't know how big that thing was, but size of the room, to me at least, it looked really
it was
big.
about 40 feet, I would say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, then even bigger. Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking, do you think it was just for visual so we could kind of refer to it? Like, oh yeah, I saw this semicircular thing. Or,
it was the same design as the halos that they went into the forge as.
The halos were this big, like from here to here. And the actual thing was like, so I'm wondering, like,
Well, they do make a comment about the when Bernard goes into the cradle, Elsie says something about that you're a host version, blah blah blah. Some Redditor will fucking know the answer to that. Pointless, by the way. And so that's why they had to go into his head like that. And then the forge one was made. It was like a newer version is what I took from that. But also all the humans were back. I look at the Delos definitely knew about the forge because it's reverse engineering. The cradle was to have it was the opposite because they're the constant in the cradle in the forge. Well, no, they're the constant in the forge as well. But they showed James Delos in there. They're trying to recreate. This is their experimenting. And they also have the book, and it's also, they all become music. Did you notice the piano? Player piano type, that's how it was logged, and so you all technically become Chopin and Mozart.
Did anybody else notice Maeve in the forge?
Yep, and also Elsie. Yep,
and Felix.
Yep, those memories are there. Yeah. I think that's just cinematic effect right there. And see, the big issue too is you have a lot of casual viewers, and there's nothing wrong with a casual viewer because people got to go to work in the morning and they're not trying to analyze the show for a YouTube video. That we're asking in that very climactic moment of Maeve versus Clementine is very beautifully shot. A lot of people are like, why would Maeve go about that like this? So that shows me that they need to do a little bit better with their story, because you've got people, when you have these beautiful shots and you have people asking, well, why is she going like that? You know what I mean? That is an issue. Like there shouldn't be too many whys in those bowl moments and all that. That was really shot well. You should have enough distraction. But you introduce
lots of unnatural moments in that scene. Just unnatural things that people would do under stress. 50 people aren't going to freeze at the same time and look at a horse that's barely trotting toward them. And they all had time for most of them to get through the door. So that bothered me. I won't go into any more than that. Go ahead.
Yeah, but then the door is a victory, but then it's also like a failure. So it's like, man, they got to get to the door. And then it's like, uh-oh, they all got to the door. So I don't know how to feel about it. And they're, like I said, I like to have the conversation, but where do they want that conversation to go? Like, I get at the end of season 1 what they want us to talk about, like, and it's not just what they want, but what they're posing. they're posing questions. They're talking about empowerment. They're talking about, free will. They're talking about spirituality. They're talking about artificial intelligence, obviously. But like, what is the Forge? What dialogue does that bring up? I guess how tangible is a non-materialistic world? I guess the non-material, like the meta whole like fucking quantum mechanics.
Also, with your question, I'm thinking a lot of it was on Dolores. She was the one who kind of had yeah, you can go there, making decisions for them. So a lot of that, like one person telling other people if they go to so-called heaven, or not, whatever they called it, that world, which seems like heaven to those hosts. And you have this one Dolores person saying, no, you cannot go there. You cannot make your choice because I think it's not right. So I'm thinking that was one of the reasons why they wanted to show her in that light, making decisions for majority, wanting them to be free, but not giving them that freedom. Even though in her reasons, maybe a code, there may be a different program, and she's making people live lives that she thinks they should live. And that's not right. And we can see it. Later on, she changes her mind after dying, I guess, or something happens to her. Either Bernard or whoever reprograms her to tweak the, her characteristics, or she basically maybe realizes that she was wrong. I'm hoping the latter.
Isn't it odd that somebody that is so unwilling to compromise, because again, and I think I've said this a lot, that, we anointed her Spartacus far before we should have, and that's fair to say she's not. But then she shows this odd amount of nobility with the bringing along. Not only did it's kind of odd they made each other as well, like, because they're making their adversary. So again, that messes with that process. And she's so unwilling to give like choices to like look at in that situation, like to literally like hundreds, maybe thousands of hosts, but yet she's so noble and she brings Bernard. That's inconsistent to me. It's like, man, it's odd.
Can I interject? I actually rewatched it today, and at the end, she says exactly why she brought Bernard back. She said, when I was going through the books, I went through every scenario. We cannot win without you. So for some reason, whatever she saw while she was in the Forge. See, also, I have a question of whether she deleted all the humans from the Forge or not, whether she was successful in that as well. But she does state that, from what she read in the Forge, that she had to have Bernard in order for them to have a chance at victory.
So it's like with Men in Black, right? They needed each other, or she needed him for something. That's why she didn't kill him right away. She just kind of grabbed him and they went on to where they went, right? She could have killed him right away to get her revenge.
And how did that turn out? How did that turn out?
The whole Men in Black and Dolores thing, I think that she was just mainly just trolling him, because she just simply just wanted him to like get the gun so that
because I didn't get it, because I didn't get the fact, like, okay, she said that she needs him, and I'm thinking, not to go into the whole inconsistency, but I was missing, okay, she needed him for what? That was my thing. Yeah, I get it. I get exactly what you mean, but I'm just saying what she said, like the sentence, "Oh, I need you" or whatever for something, and something not killing him right away. Obviously, there was no payoff for that, big boo. But the words that she said, and then Bernard saying, or Dolores saying that to Bernard. So, yeah.
Well, that could be. We don't know. Like again, with the whole future thing, with the Men in Black becoming a host, or if it becomes a host or host hybrid, whatever they decide to do in the future of the series, it's like it can be so ambiguous that for all we know, the Man in Black was brought back by Dolores as well. So that's how I look at it as well.
I mean, the only thing that we got out of that, because I like the whole, if you notice on my channel, I did a whole remix of the after show for the Beyond the Wall for Game of Thrones, because it's them talking so proudly about how they brought together characters that have never been on screen together, but everybody likes. So I'm like, yeah, because you're following logic, because like, but it was just like fans wrote that episode Beyond the Wall, and they got all the fan favorites. It was a finale. They wanted Dolores and NIB to be together, but it was interesting because he got introduced to Bernard in that situation, and that's yet another person that doesn't recognize the exact, at least physical replica of the guy that you can't tell me that he wasn't on like the front of some fucking like industry papers or something. I mean, this whole idea, he was on, the only person that couldn't see his picture, Ford had a picture of Bernard on his desk in his weird like 1930s his dad. You know, like, I mean, like, it's very unacceptable to me that nobody would know. And I don't care how much covering up you do. This technology is so unique that they are trying to do everything in their capable hands to get it out of there, when we now know they could have just put it out in the purse. Like we were wondering in season 1 why they didn't do that. And they kind of brought that back around. So they managed to fuck that plot line, in my opinion. Like, everybody asked in season 1, why are they being so like complex about this? Why doesn't she just smuggle it out? It's like, because they probably can't. But then how did they get it out?
So your question was, why didn't Bernard and Man in Black recognize each other?
I don't expect a real answer to it. I'm kind of rambling out, and I apologize.
I was wondering about that too. Do you think he was already a host back at that point? Because I heard different theories on when he became a host.
For me, I think that they just covered up the whole Arnold situation from history to the point that I don't think anyone would have known. Because let's face the facts. If people knew like what Arnold looked like, and then they looked at Bernard, they would have put 2 and 2 together. Like, hold up, dude, you're a host. Like, Teresa would have known, Charlotte would have known from the beginning that this dude was a freaking host. So they just really just covered up the whole Arnold situation. I think that's what they were kind of implying there.
Everybody knows about the scenario, though. Everybody knows about it. They're talking about it in season 1. And again, Ford has a picture of him on his desk. But if you're going to want to know what that guy's looked like, this is an age of simulation. You're telling me that there wasn't a fucking trade website that had his picture on it?
And you can't just be mad at Man in Black. You have to be mad at almost everyone.
I am mad at everyone. And also, the issue is that they were selling this company, Agos, or whatever it's called. There's a name for their company. It's like Argos or something like that.
The Argos Initiative.
Thank you. And so they were at one point selling 120 storylines. So that meant they were advertising. There's information about this guy. There's no damn reason that somebody, especially, there is a literal picture on the desk. And they see, that is, to me, an example of needing that for the Bernard twist, but it doesn't go with the rest of the story. But they didn't care. They wanted to have that moment that Bernard was like, everybody's like, ooh, Bernard couldn't see it because he was really a host. It's like, oh, what about everybody else? Like, oh, well, fuck it. We really want to do this Bernard thing. So, I mean, that's ideally what happened. I don't want to hear any other, I mean, I'll hear it, but I don't believe it.
Second question about like the whole Pearl situation thing, it's like, it's possible they could have done that before, because the way how Ford said in season 1, like, people try to take the information out of the park, but I would stop them. So for all we know, there could have been a scenario where they try to do the whole Pearl thing, but because Ford knew, because again, he knows everything, he stopped it. That's like my fan explaining it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, having Stubbs as a host, I mean, I guess he would have been the one there, and he's the one that let it go now. But
true, but like when you look at like Stubbs and think, it's like, how good was he compared to everyone else?
I just think that you don't want to pose that question, okay? Because number one, it really doesn't justify all that. There's a lot of different ways they could have went with this narrative that would have made this messing with our timeline way more acceptable. And you definitely don't want to bring up, like, rehash other people's speculations, other people's lack of suspension of disbelief. Like, they literally injected a storyline from last season that was still kind of like people are iffy on. So, you know, again, we never know, because it's very, like, we don't even know if that's the key still, to be honest, or if that is the key in the drive. That it's still in. It does also, if you look at a freeze frame, it says that there's data corrupted. It says possible data corruption. So how much more ambiguous could they be? It's like, oh, it could possibly be messed up too. I just think they do that so people on Reddit's heads just explode, to be honest. But yeah, we don't even know if that or the information she sent was the encryption key or the data package.
Well, I don't know. One of them was Teddy. That's all I know for sure. That's all I know for sure.
Why do you think she would take Teddy with her?
No, she sent Teddy. As far as the ones she took out, that's what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I guess if you guys want to go
sex with Teddy, I think we can understand that, you know.
She's kinky, so she put Teddy inside of the Charlotte host body. That's my guess.
Do you guys like Tessa Thompson's acting in this? I
No.
honestly don't. I don't. It's like blasphemy to say this to a lot of people. Are like, how dare you? It's like a hate crime.
I think she was trying to act like a Terminator, not like.
Yeah, she was kind of like acting like Dolores. I think she had to act like the actress of like, you know, who plays Dolores. It was like, how would you like act out? And so it was like that. I too like noticed that too. And I'm not normally like keen into like acting chops and stuff because people ask me like, how could you be watching certain shows and the acting is terrible? I'm like, I don't know. I just like I'm in for like the actual show. But then there are times when she actually did that Dolores, whatever, I don't know what's the term for her, the Hail Dolores spot, whatever. It's like you can see like the change of the acting there, and I was like, okay, I can't ignore this. Like it's literally there.
Yeah, she doesn't move her shoulders when she walks. There's a whole behind the scenes, so they can be like, now you can rewatch the show and see this twist that wasn't all that great. But no, it is true. I think that like Jeffrey Wright did a really good job of concealing and doing very slight, subtle movements to imply early on in season 1 because he was informed about his character arc. And I think that Tessa Thompson, I mean, it just people shit all over me when I say this, but she doesn't have the chops to pull it off. Like, Lewis Hertham as well does a really good job, even though he had to get real loony this season. But I mean, it's hard to pull off. But they did do a thing. Evan Rachel Wood showed how she doesn't move her shoulders when she walks and like the way she does her eyes. And there is a slight amount of CGI applied to them. It's like VFX, a slight amount.
You know, I'm thinking about I'm agreeing with you on her acting, but I think maybe she was just giving a wrong directive what to do. I would prefer if she actually had kept her sweet side and just made it creepy. I would prefer that to kind of overlay that, I guess, evil or creepy Wyatt, or maybe I don't know if Wyatt was supposed to be creepy or just evil, but I think I would prefer if she had actually kept her sweet side and then just kind of released a little creepy on people from time to time. I would prefer that versus just going all serious and evil.
Like bring out her inner Ford.
Yeah, but like from time to time, like the creepy, like she's all sweet, all the and then you never know when she kind of flips her thing and then ooh, I would have preferred that.
Oh, all right. So we're getting a little insight into ULMR, and yeah, okay. No, I do understand what you're saying though, and we did see very little Dolores Abernathy because she would talk with her Southern accent, and it's amazing how much I guess hate overcame love, because there was much more Wyatt. You are right. There was very little Dolores because she would talk in her Southern accent when that happened. But I guess we'll start to try to wrap it up if there's any questions in there. But what do you guys want to see out of season 3? Because they're saying that there's not going to be a whole lot of Westworld in Westworld, which interesting choice again. But what do you guys want to see? And if you have any idea about the pearls, which I think is going to be, for a content creator, it's great. I mean, you can make a lot of videos with it. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. It's endless speculation. The show is always great for that. But what are you guys looking forward to? Because I think we got 2 years to look forward to it. So you better not have a lack of things to look forward to.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Man in Black's complete demise, seeing that play out, and seeing whether he'll even make it out of the park off that cot or not. Also, I want to know how far in the future she finally recreated Bernard as well. And it's going to be interesting because we need a human protagonist, in my opinion. We need a good human protagonist. And that is really what I want to see. As far as a prediction, I think one of the pearls is possibly going to be a copy of Maeve, because Hale did extract her code, and we did see Maeve in the forge, and you can speculate from there. But basically, I'd like to see a little more solid of a season, and them not try to out-trick themselves, so to speak.
That's what I like about you, Johnny, and that's why I think that your channel's going to do well, because you're not just looking to see, oh man, that'd be cool. How different would this be? You're thinking about what it does for the story, not how shocking it would be. And I think that's the best measured way to look at the show. I don't do it, but hey, kooky, this person is really that person theories tend to do really well. So, Sell your soul eventually. BBM, what are you looking forward to reacting, and when are you going to finally come over to the full-on recap and review side?
Yeah, you're gonna start seeing me do a little bit more recap review over the summer, just to, like, test the waters there. If I don't like it, I'm just gonna stick to reaction. If not, I might do a combination of the two. But that'll make more extra work for me, Justin. Like, why? No, unless you give me an intern for free, then maybe so, because I hate editing. But what I look forward to season 3, like the whole war with Dolores. How is Bernard gonna be involved with it? Like, I can see, like, the whole timeline for this just might be a little bit more focused again on the Man in Black character. It's because of the after credit scene, and possibly, you know, the return of. I know one thing I actually want to look forward to, and even like Johnny B brings it up, like a human who possibly can make Dolores like shift her views on humanity. Like, you can see them; they're gonna possibly do the shipping of like Dolores meets a human that reminds her of Teddy. And then that's what's gonna happen. That's gonna like switch it, like, you know what, maybe she might like humans, and then that love interest might end up dying from a human. Then she's like, you know what? Just like that AI said, like, oh, humans are predictable, they're all that stuff. So I think that's possibly gonna happen.
That is interesting. Are we going to get like a Sex and the City-esque plotline with Dolores out on the move? I mean, she's a good-looking young lady that stays good-looking forever. So maybe we will get a relationship. That would be an interesting aspect right there. BBM, I do want to ask you, how do you feel that you now have more pops than all of the Toys R Us have accumulated on their shelves right now since they're out of business? How does that feel to finally beat Toys R Us in the Funko Pop game?
Well, I could beat the Toys R Us that's in America, but not in Canada because they're still thriving. So it's like, damn, I still got competition some way, somehow.
Is that insider pop knowledge?
I did work for like Toys R Us for like a moment in time. So it's like, yeah, I do know some stuff. Can't expose everything on screen. Maybe when this goes off air, I can, you know, tell some insider trade thing, but on air.
Hear that game? That's inside baseball talk, guys. Get those good. Hey, but you probably could have got some pretty sweet deals when they were going out of business.
Yeah, I can't confirm that. What happened to like that delivery a few weeks ago? No, I can't.
Yeah, just, you know, don't be in strangers' cars outside for pops. It's not a good idea. AU, what are you looking forward to? What drives your what's your core drive for this show? Are you really loving that everybody's a host? Are you really looking to see Maeve thrive and maybe a little bit of opposition? What are you looking for?
First of all, I'm looking forward to BBM moving to Washington so he could work at the Funko factory in Everett. Yeah, that would be the best. I don't know if you've seen pictures of that place, but it's awesome. Anyway, Maeve, you know, I hate to say this, theory, right, hurt your ears, but I think Kahana was actually Maeve, and that's how Maeve is going to live in Kahana in the Valley Beyond. I think if you look at the way she died, that whole thing, you know, just went down that way. As far as season 3 goes, obviously we're going to get an awful lot of, you know, the board, what the fights are, and I'm going to love actually seeing Dolores plan the demise of the humans in the real world. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And then, you know, because we have always not compared this to Lost, even though we compare it to Lost, you have Jacob and the Man in Black in that show battling each other, and that's exactly what they're doing in this. I mean, I don't know if you remember that, but that's exactly what happened.
Notice I changed my color to red because I got angry. I got angry. But everything you said angered me. Everything about it, I don't like.
Hey, you yelled at me last stream when I brought up the L word. How dare you?
Exactly. You're not supposed to. Hey, why you got to bring that up, especially on a panel with me now?
Well, I don't know if you probably heard all of the Lost similar.
We still do
stuff with the riddle of the Sphinx, but when Delos is riding that bike, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's the hatch. It's the hatch. What's the combo to the hatch? So
it's so disturbing to think that way. It was a really bad show all around. People still defend that show, and those people are just crazy people, I believe. Like they, but I'll tell you what, Axel, a great guy, and who I got mad props for. That first off, is just one of the best guys in the business. But he did a Lost. He's grandfathered in, and I said if anybody could turn me to Lost, because I was in acting school during Lost, and my teachers like shit all over the show, and I was in my formative years.
Yeah.
So I was very heavily influenced. I didn't have my own opinions. I had opinions of others, and I shouted them as loud as I could. And then I figured out I'd just get a webcam and a microphone and do it on here. But yeah, no, I was poisoned against it. So I watched the first season and I stopped. And I always look at it on Netflix, and I just still hit Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Because I got to get a whole new hat if I start watching.
Plus, they have 15 episodes a season, and they have 32 seasons, kind of like that other show you hate. So it's very you can go deep too quick. So don't watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't need anything like that. I like my stories to be good. That's just me. LMR, what if you were going to write your own story, if you were going to write your own narrative in Westworld, what would you write if you could write? And you have to write for Westworld, and it has to be kind of a spaghetti Western, and none of this kind of like creepy injection of a man at any point, because, you know, Mabe's brothel's doing just fine. It's the best damn brothel in the world.
Well, now you took a lot of my creativity away.
You have artistic
license. You limited me right now with not doing the brothel thing. Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
Would you open up competition? I mean, there's
no competition. I would win. Anyway.
Damn. There you go.
Just kidding. But as you know, looking forward to the next season, just to kind of get my opinion in, because I always have an opinion. I'm seriously trying to really see what's going on over there on the outside. We're never actually, whatever we saw or we've seen there, I don't trust what we've seen, because we've seen it through somebody else's eye, and I don't see the eyes, and that's not reliable for me. So I really want to see what's going on with people. How is the humanity? What's going on? What's the population? How come everybody is able to go there? Why are they going there to go fishing? Like, are in there, lakes where they can go fishing with their son or daughter? So I want to see the outside. I want to see the battle of why are they doing it? Why can they get entertained on the outside? So that's my thing. Obviously other stuff too, but I want to see the outside.
Yeah, if they can't establish stakes once they're on the outside. First off, there's definitely koi fish in that little area they're in. There's definitely some koi. I didn't see it, but I agree. I think it's interesting that we, I don't think they delivered like they thought. Like Samurai or Shogun World, I think was a little bit of a letdown, and also the outside world. But they delivered on other fronts. Riddle of the Sphinx and man, I can't remember now. Kiksuya or whatever. Those are great episodes. I think that overall the season just came in slightly under.
Did Phil Collins sing that?
Yeah, what song I'm thinking in my head. I don't know exactly what it is, but no, I really enjoy it, and I do enjoy the dialogue. It's led me literally to look into like again, I love storytelling, so I like the message that how powerful the stories are. It has made me look back at spirituality and look at how that's embedded into our biology. I love that. I love the idea of, even if you just look at it as like mythology, that it's still advantageous for our evolution. Our eyes literally have developed more to seep out snakes. I mean, it's crazy. So I mean, the stories that we tell ourselves, every civilization has them. America is not even 300 years old, something. And we've got freaking folklore. That's myth. We've got Johnny Appleseed. We make up stories. We still have this fascination. It doesn't matter. If you had formed a new country tomorrow, you'd have some bullshit that you'd be pressing. And in thousands of years, it would age like fine wine. But there's something to be said for the story, the power of it. And it does. Not only does it give you like inspiration, but it also like biologically affects you. And I find that fascinating. And I find it fascinating to talk to people with different beliefs. Obviously BBM, you have your issues with Pops, and we're all praying for you. And God will it. But no, I really do appreciate it. I like to have different people on, and I hope to have some more focus panels, and I hope to finally get my video out. It's going to be 3 hours long, and it'll be a lot of anger, and then a little bit of me trying to say something nice. But no, I overall felt really good, but I'm not going to say the finale stuck the landing for me. But hey, it's hard to do these things. They're very ambitious. Their ambition goes a long way for me. At least we're talking about it, right? It's not two broke girls. That's not bringing up any fucking valid conversations.
So Justin, a question for you. Are you forming a support group for all of us?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you guys just wanna, you know, talk, I always like, oh, I'm supposed to be shouting out a book club. I think I do that in my video. I'm gonna get the link, but there is a good book club, and it's from Jezebel, and she is very intelligent when it comes to Westworld. I will put her in the actual link. I'm gonna put her in my video as well. I just remembered about her. But yeah, I would love to actually get like a book club going eventually, like but try to do it like on a wider base, do it through like good books or good reads. But any content suggestions for the channel, let me know. I got a lot of Game of Thrones stuff actually coming up. I've been getting my Game of Thrones bug back.
Since we're talking religion, can I give you a confession?
Yeah, you owe me one.
Justin, I really thought you were Jezebel. That's
really?
how that you guys think a lot alike. So yeah, you're both.
That's a compliment.
Yeah,
thank you.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Well, double game. You just confirm.
And I'm sorry to her because that's got to be harsh for her to hear. That sucks for her. But that is awesome for me. She is a bright mind. She was one of the writers that we had in Focal. We had Bran the Builder, who he would send me his Game of Thrones stuff that my head would literally explode. I had to tell him, I'm like, dude, I can't look at this right now. Not because it sucks, because it's just gonna fucking make my mind go crazy. Like, his ideas are just so freaking, they're very detailed and they're very vast, but they make you just look at that story in a whole different way. And Jezebel can talk about any narrative and can make it very interesting. So I think her book club is going to be excellent. She's so intelligent. So yes, thank you, AU. That's not a confession. You can always tell me stuff like that. I forgive you for your blaspheming, missing my stream. But I always enjoy you guys, and maybe we'll get in the mix going again. Technical problems are always an issue.
What?
He just said technical problems, and he just went into one.
Anyways, he offended me, so I got him with my Maeve host powers. Johnny Appleseed was my great grandfather, so the
Pokemon.
Respect Johnny Appleseed. Does anybody got any questions in the chat? Justin will be back with us in just a moment, I believe.
Couple hours.
Hopefully, it's not a couple hours. Like, it's Funkos that need to be ordered. That's why I made sure that it's like an hour stream. It already went an hour and 24, so I'm like, okay, all right. I give him extra few minutes.
Usually, doesn't it time out after 10 minutes? After 10 minutes of the host being off air, I think it kind of. So he's on the clock right now. Let's see if he jumps in here.
Costume company put the sign of the devil, the mark of the beast, down there. I don't know if that means that's who had something to do with Justin being gone. I hope he's okay. That light was red.
Too much religion. YouTube is like, okay, he's got to shut it down. And that was it.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, as he's jumping on, anybody wants to add anything?
Yeah, he's done. So we should be cutting off shortly. I'd like to add that thank you, Justin, if you're out there listening somewhere. I really appreciate you having me on. Check out my channel at Johnny B Crazy, and me and LMR do live streams every Monday on her channel at Living My Rhapsody. Go ahead and plug yourself.
I guess I'll follow you, Johnny, since we're talking about channels. So yeah, we're doing that on Mondays, different hours depending on different creators. We never want to jump on when anybody else is jumping on. We have I would say same friends, so I want to be watching you guys, and maybe you want to be watching us. I don't know. So yeah, and then you know where to find me if you want to find me. So yep, go ahead, BBM or AU.
Since I was called first, age before beauty, I guess. AU. So Broke Black Man 984 here, the one with the Funko wool, as everyone seemingly knows, and been like, according to everyone on this panel, I kind of have an addiction, but I don't see this as an addiction compared to the Man in Black and his obsession. with the damn game. But on my channel, I do a lot of reactions to a lot of shows, from the CWs, the originals, and the 100s, to Supernatural, to Fox's own Gotham, to BBC's Doctor Who from Stars, American Gods, even HBO's Game of Thrones and Westworld. Whole bunch of shows.
Hey, my internet went out.
Woo!
No, but you're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how many. Yeah, I think we're going to close it up, though. I don't know where my rant ended, but I just like to thank each and every one of you. Each and every one of you are unique in your own way and deliver quality content and are always worth having a conversation with. And I'm happy that you all put up with me to an extent, because that says a lot about your character right there. That's a test right there. That's a fidelity test for you right there. So you didn't hit your plateau. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful super chat. It means the world. And yeah, unless you guys have anything else that you'd like to say, I think we're going to wrap it up. And I really appreciate everybody coming for the very loose and unorganized version of, I guess this is after the dust settles, where things just get more construed and more confusing. It doesn't really add up, but it's interesting. And there's never a lack of issues to talk about. Johnny, thank you. BBM.
I think it's more like in the dust storm.
Yeah, I think it's like I have dust poisoning or black lung.
Where the tumbleweed blows, possibly.
Well, that's why I picked the name, because I'm like, I could go everywhere with this. I have like the dust is slightly settled, but it's still kind of not all that visible. Like there's like, you know, different ranges of it. So like I can have all these like mid-range shows where I never promised to explain everything. But in the end, the actual explanation for this episode is very simple. Whether that's enjoyable for you or not, I don't know. But yeah, you know, the premise is not simple, and the bigger themes are still there, and the bigger conversations are to be had. So thank you guys again. I'm going to try to get off of this before it logs me off again. North Carolina, get your shit together.
Justin, one more thing, Justin. Could AU say is like where we can find them? Because we were saying like our channels, and it stopped at me when you came back. We were about to like
no, I don't. You know what I mean?
I knew you were evil.
Yeah, dude, go. I'm sorry. Go, AU.
He doesn't want me to have a choice. That's what the problem is. No, just kidding. No, thank you, Justin. Seriously, I really appreciate you having me on. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed our conversation with BBM as always. Johnny, I've really enjoyed having live streams with you. LMR, it was a real pleasure getting to talk to you, and I love watching you and Johnny on Monday nights. A lot of fun. I will continue doing live streams when I can, and I'm also going to be doing some more Lord of the Rings videos. So that part of it, I hope that you guys are going to enjoy as well. So again, Justin, congratulations to you. Keep doing the good work that you're doing, buddy.
No, it means the world, and you were the first person to have me on for a live stream. And like I said, anybody that can put up with me for more than 5-10 minutes is one hell of a person. You guys mean the world. Content creators unite, and thank you to the fandom, because it's all about having a dialogue. So yeah, subscribe to everybody's channel. We will see you guys soon.